So I got a question for you. It's a deep one. How are you? How you doing? Good, right? How we doing? Good, right? That's what we say, right? That's what you do in Nebraska. I was talking to my oldest son. He's like, I've realized I've started saying good even when I'm doing bad. He just turned 10 this week and is like, yeah, you're right. We do that, right? Why? Because we're in Nebraska. This is the good life. We got Midwest manners, right? We're in Nebraska nice. And so how are you doing? I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Even if you're not doing good, right? I'm still doing good. I'm doing okay. You could be laying on the ground with your leg just got ripped off. It's laying over there, and someone's going, "Hey, how you doing?" I'm doing okay. I'm doing just fine. You look like I'm okay. I'm okay. I was passing by and I saw that maybe you could have put a tourniquet on or something. No, you look like you were going to grab some coffee or something. I wouldn't want to interfere. I'm good. I'm doing just fine. I'm doing just right. I'll be okay. I'll just throw some dirt on it. Like, I'll be fine. Right? Like, we want to be good. We want to be okay. Yet, here's the reality. Statistically speaking, we probably aren't. Because mental illness has almost doubled since COVID. Almost 50% of people at this given moment have dealt with mental illness within the last couple months. We've got things that are going on in our world. You can't even turn on the news. It's too frightening. It's too depressing. It's too scary. There's so much going. There's wars, and there's like political tension, and there's all this like left wing, right wing, and how do I figure out and marriages are falling apart. Divorce rates are climbing. Friendships that have been around for years are dissolving. We're seeing the world, and we come, and it's Easter Sunday, and we say, "How you doing?" "Doing good. I think I'm okay, right? I'm okay, right?" And we go, "God is good," and we're praising Him. Yet today we're opening up a series, and it's called There Will Be Light. It's all about finding the goodness of God in the hard times, in the dark things, and in order to ask a real question like, is God actually good? In order to ask a real question like that, you got to have a real analysis of what's going on. And if you do a real analysis of the world, I'm not all too convinced. I'm not all that convinced that it's everything's great. I've heard some people describe it to me like this. They say, "Listen, I understand that the Christian God, that the God that you worship is all powerful, right? Yep. And He's all good, right? Yup. Yeah, I can't come on board with that. Because I look around me and I'm like, man, I don't think if He's all powerful, He ain't all that good. Because there's a lot of ugly. There's a lot of pain. I feel like my life is marked more by pain than by victory. I feel like the things that I look back of what shaped me the most, of what's the things that have happened to me, it's not stuff that I necessarily want to proclaim or talk about or share. It's pretty ugly. It's pretty dark. Or that maybe even it's the things that I've done. And so if God's all powerful, then clearly He can't be all that good. Or maybe He is. Maybe He's good. But He just isn't all that powerful, and He's in over His head with the world that's been created. Because when we look at this, we gotta the reality, we have to wrestle with these questions. If you haven't asked these questions, then I want to challenge you to ask these questions, because otherwise you're probably living in a level of ignorance, not necessarily faith. You're probably not embracing the things and going, where is, because we gotta realize, is God good? In fact, as you look at, I heard from a professor, he was talking about how today people aren't asking anymore, is God real, as much as they're asking, is God good? Because as science continues, we thought science was going to overcome God, but the more we discover about science, the more we're going, man, I just really can't deny that this is way more complex than anything that could have just happened. Right? There has to be, that's why creationism, the idea that I don't know what happened, or some creator had to have done this, and that's even becoming more popular because it's undeniable. But is it possible that maybe some creator designed all this insane, amazing, beautiful universe and comes to the earth and makes these intelligent mammals and goes, sweet, and skips off to his next adventure? Like, we got to ask these questions, and we've got to wrestle with it in a way where we don't get caught in the lie of my tiny little experience, right? Find the lie of finite perception. Wait, and this is what that says. This is what, here's where it goes. If my life is good, or it's going good, or things around me look to be going well, God must be good. But if my life is not going well, things around me look kind of bleak, then clearly God must not be good. And we've got to realize that that's kind of a finite, kind of a small view of God and goodness. And then we've also got to realize, like, what do I mean by good? What do I want by good? And when you ask this question, when you ask the question about, is God good, it raises all sorts of problems. Because you can reason about it. We can reason about God's goodness. We can go, listen, like, if you look at it, what do you really want for God to do? Do you want, like, as soon as someone does something really bad, that he just, like, strikes them down and they die? I gotta be honest, I would have preferred that last week at Nashville Covenant School. I would have. I would have preferred that on 9/11. There's a lot of different ways that I'd go, man, but then I got to look at it and I got to go, okay, but if anytime we get to a certain level of badness that we just fall down dead, right? No one, yes, will more people understand and believe in God? Maybe, but no one will follow God and be in a relationship with him. We'll just be afraid of him. This will be a holy dictator, not a holy father. And the whole purpose of relationship that we are all designed for just goes out the window. And then we can reason with that. We can reason with, well, then is my definition as a 33-year-old guy, is my definition of good really good? Because, like, the reality is 10 years ago, whatever you defined as what good was probably different. And that's why laws continue to get updated, because we continue to change what we think is a good thing. So our good is constantly shifting, constantly changing, and we've got to recognize that maybe our good isn't all that good. And we've got to find a goodness that is greater, and the very desire inside of each of us that says, I want to see good, actually speaks to a good creator that planted that inside of us. We have something that's seeking after him inside of us The fact that good exists demands that there is a good God out there somewhere. Now, we can reason with this, and we can argue about it. We can figure out, man, where do I end and God begins, and the role of this world, but at some point, we've got to recognize that whether I'm 13, whether I'm 33, or whether I'm 103, my understanding of God, my understanding of goodness, my understanding of how He works and how this world operates is going to be infinitely more futile and broken and tiny compared to an eternal creator who designed it all. I don't think I'm built to fully get it. And I don't think I'm supposed to be. In fact, when we can reason about this same idea and this same concept that when the world, it looks like it's getting worse and worse and worse and worse, is it? Yeah, it probably is, honestly. Why? Because whether you want to call it, whether you're looking at our sinful nature, the thing that draws us and makes us love sin and kind of drift away from God, whether you want to call the fallenness of the world or the depravity around us, or whether you want to look at the scientific word, and they use the same concept and they say, well, it's called entropy. Everything drifts into chaos. Slowly but surely, everything's falling apart. And we look at it and we recognize that that's happening in our world. Right? There's more earthquakes and disasters, and even the earth itself is fallen. We are fallen in all of this, and we can argue and we can go, hey, well, watch this, because like if there's not a drifting away from God, then there's no choosing. There's no such thing as choice. Why? Because if me becoming lazy and me not trying anything makes me just drift into an amazing relationship with my wife, I never choose that then. I never get to show any intentionality. I don't ever get to choose that. No, what happens when I get lazy, when I get distracted, when I decide to, and when I'm not pursuing, what happens? Disconnection. And if I want to make a decision, I have to have something that is almost kind of pulling me in the opposite direction to go, no, I'm going to decide this. And so if I ever want to be in relationship, I have to go, no, this is going to be intentional. I got to have some level of intentionality. I got to make a choice. And I can't have that without something opposing me that I've got to fight against. But here's the problem. Every time I have these conversations, this is called apologetics. If you guys like apologetics, if you guys like this stuff, you're like, wow, this kind of makes sense. I thought Christians were just like heads in the sky, like, oh, well, God's just good all the time, right? Like, no, if you like this, look it up. Look up biblical apologetics. But here's the reality. I have never personally encountered someone whose life was changed by reason. Impacted, helped to be framed so that I could respond. But if you can be convinced of something, you can be convinced against it. I can convince myself of anything. I can leave because what we've got this, it's called your logical mind and your emotional mind. And we've got both of these playing a role inside of us at all times. And I can reason with the logical mind, but here's the problem that we come to. So we have all these, and I talk to people, and they're like, I get it. I hear you. I see it. I think I understand it. But you haven't seen what I've seen. But all this talk doesn't bring my child back from the grave. It doesn't. I get it, but my marriage is still gone. A parent, my grandparent, where are they? Then why? How come the cancer? How come the diagnosis had to be so terrible? And the reality is that in this room we have those stories, and this is the thing that like you can't You can't reason your way out of that. We get stuck in this, I don't know if I can believe in a good God because everything around me, it's like, it's really scary bad. It's frighteningly bad. I don't see the hope. And this is what we see in a couple stories I want to highlight in John 11, first of all, with Lazarus. And in John 11, if you guys got your Bibles, you can open up because I'm going to be bouncing around. But this is a story about Jesus, one of his good friends, and he's got family that have been following Jesus for a long time. And we see them interact with Jesus, asking for, hey, it says in, it says at the beginning, the first part of the verse, it says, Lazarus was sick. He lived in Bethany. Mary and Martha, who've been following Jesus, Mary, the two sisters told him, Lord, your dear friend is very sick. But when Jesus heard about it, he said, Lazarus' sickness will not end in death. No, it will happen for the glory of God. And look at verse 5. So although Jesus loved Martha, Mary, and Lazarus, he stayed where he was for 2 days. Then finally, when he leaves, he kind of moseys his way there. It's about it's a journey that could 20 miles, so could potentially be done in 1 day if you had urgency. But it was 2 days and took his time. Got there 4 days in. And Lazarus has died. He said it won't end in death, but Lazarus died. And then we see the reaction of Mary and Martha. Verse 20, it says, when Martha got word that Jesus was coming, she went to meet him, but Mary stayed in the house. I think I relate to Mary a little bit more. Where were you, Jesus? My brother is dying. You said you love us. And then this is what Martha says, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. She reveals, I know, if you would have come, he wouldn't have died. But even now I know that God will give you whatever you ask. And then later we see Mary, and Jesus says, he actually has to call for Mary. He says, can someone go get Mary and bring her here? And so we skip ahead to verse 32, and it says, when Mary arrived and saw Jesus, she fell at his feet and said, Lord, if only you had been here, my brother would not have died. And she stops there. She doesn't give but God, you're still good, and God, you're still going to move, and you're still going to do something. She just stops there. I had hope. I don't know what your situation is. I don't know what the thing is, but I think it rings in all of us of going, I had hope, but you didn't show up. Where were you? If you would have shown up, my brother would still be here. My marriage would still be restored. My child would be in my arms. My womb would have been opened. If you were here, that tragedy wouldn't have happened. I wouldn't have had to declare bankruptcy. Where were you? And then we see Jesus' response. It says, the next verse says, when Jesus saw her weeping and saw the other people wailing with her, a deep anger welled up in him. And this word, this deep feeling. It literally says, some of the translations say, and Jesus groaned. It's this, I hate this. And he was deeply troubled. It says, where have you put him? He asked them. They told him, Lord, come and see. And as he gets to the tomb, Jesus wept. He wept. Not shed a tear, not cried a little bit, uncontrollable, I can't breathe, weeping. And what Mary and Martha didn't understand is that when it looks like God is absent, it never means that he is apathetic. Even if God looks absent, he is never apathetic. Jesus comes and he goes, my heart is broken. But he knows what's about to come. And if you know the story, what does he do? He says, all right, they got a stone in front of the grave. Roll it away. And he shouts out, Lazarus, come out. And Lazarus, the dead man, came out, his hands and feet still bound in his grave clothes, wrapped in a headcloth. And he said, unwrap him and let him go. See, here's the thing. Jesus says, his story's not going to end in death, but it will have death as a part of it. What we find is that in the hopeless, the most dire, the most terrible times in our lives, when we go, I had hope and it's gone, that's actually the time when we find Jesus. That's not the time when he's gone. That's the time when he's nearest. That's when he's closest. And what we do is we try to run away from that. We try to if I look at that, I will never see God's goodness, so I can't look at that. I got to believe in this good God when this world is just terrible and I don't know what to do about it. Where is he? And so we realize that we have to move. We have to move from the thought of asking, is God good, to where is God's goodness? Because I see it. I see that for thousands of years, people have worshiped him as good. In my own life, I've seen him intervene in ways that are crazy, that are good. We got stories in this room of people who have prayed for wombs to be open, and they were open, and they're holding a child right now. And then we got stories in this room of people who have prayed for a womb to be open, and it ended in a hysterectomy. So I see, God, that you are good. I see that you do intervene. I see that you've done good things. I just don't see your goodness right here. And it's this deep groaning that Jesus had. Is this, I'm infuriated by it. I got this pain inside of me. But this is the same thing that happens with the disciples. If the band can come up. This is the same thing that happened with the disciples when they're following Jesus, and they've been following him for about 3 years. And Jesus is going, hey, I'm going to go into Jerusalem. And just picture this, so the disciples are not thinking about Jesus being this amazing, humble lamb that dies, and they're going, no, he's Messiah. He's going to be a king. He's got a sword and a shield, and he's going to take over Rome, and Israel's going to be the most powerful nation, and it's going to be amazing. He's going to rule forever, and we're one of the 12 that gets to rule beside him. We're all going to have our thrones. We're all going to be able to hang out together. It'll be awesome. And Jesus says, okay, I'm going into Jerusalem. Can you imagine the disciples going okay, so I may not be a political strategist, but there's a lot of people in Jerusalem that want you dead. I think there'd be pretty much any other town, city, village that we could go to. Let's not do that one, right? Let's not go there. Because the people that want you dead are also the most powerful people there. So, it's pretty dangerous. But you want to get sure you want to go? Okay, we'll go. Okay, we'll go to Jerusalem. That's what we'll figure it. This weird strategy. And then in the Garden of Gethsemane, he gives the food and the drink to the disciples, and then they go to the garden, and right after starting communion, and he goes and he prays, and he's praying, come on, God, please, let this pass. Let this pass. I don't want this. And then Judas walks up. Can you imagine the disciples in this moment? Judas walks up with a whole army behind him. Okay, this is getting real. Okay, all right. We got to run. We got to go. We got to figure something out. Jesus isn't running. What's going on? We're getting pretty surrounded. I'm a little bit nervous right now. Then what happens? Peter grabs his sword, goes to chop someone's head off, gets a little bit of their ear. Clearly, he's not that good. And he is, and there, this is it. Let's go. The rebellion's starting. We're going to take over. This is when it's, Jesus, what are you doing? You're healing him? Run away. This is our chance. What are you doing? And Jesus lets them cuff him, and he walks away with them. Yeah, this isn't good. This isn't good. Hope is dwindling. Hope is getting bad. But they'll never get him guilty, because we all know he's innocent. See, Pilate just found out he's innocent. Yes. Wait, what's Pilate doing? Is he do with him what you want? Oh, they got a prisoner. They got a prisoner. Oh, Barabbas. Oh, ain't no way they're picking. That dude's nuts. That dude's crazy. Starts rebellions. He kills people who just look at him wrong. Like, he's a crazy dude. They are never going to pick. They picked Barabbas. They want Jesus. What are they going to do? Beat him and let him go. Come on, right? Put him on a cross. As Jesus gets hung on a cross, this is when we think about a cross, we think about this amazing, beautiful sign of hope and sign of life. But that's not at all what the cross was. The cross was the leading form of Roman torture and execution. So it represented death. It represented suffering. What would they do? They'd hang you up on a cross, naked, by one of the main roads coming into Jerusalem. It's a source of shame, and it says, watch out, if you oppose Rome, this is what's going to happen to you. It's a sign of oppression. Wearing a cross necklace would be like walking around today wearing a noose and going, oh, this thing, it just gives me hope, gives me joy, makes me feel so loved, and I feel so happy because it's like, are you kidding me? That's not hope. When we look at it, it looks really, really dark. It looks really evil. It represents death, not life. It represents evil, not good. And in the same way, we look at our lives and we look at the same thing and we go, I look at it and I see darkness. I look around me at the world and it's spinning into chaos and evil and it is looking bad and I don't know what to do about it. It looks really dark. And then, as Jesus is on the cross, he's hanging there. And he says this line. He takes a final drink. And he says, it is finished. And with that, he bowed his head, gave up his spirit, and he died on the cross, saying, I did it. And they took him off the cross, and all this, like, I was following him for 3 years. He did all these miracles. He did all this stuff. What? And any chance of getting him off the cross is now gone. Now I'm holding his dead, cold, lifeless body. I'm not going to hurry up and put it in a grave because the sun's about to go down. We're about to run out of time. I thought this was it. I thought I was going to see God here. Everything's a mess. It's worse than it ever was. Where was he? Where were you, God? That's what Jesus cries on the cross. He says, Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani. He says, God, why have you forsaken me? Where are you? And it's in those times, it's in those places where we look at the cross and we go, it just looks like death. And I can't see the goodness. I can't praise the hallelujah. He's so good. I don't see it. But it's in that place that we find the goodness of God. Because what did Jesus say? He said, it is finished. He didn't say, I am finished. He said, my job is done. I'm not done. Because 3 days later, he came back. He rose from the grave, and everybody's freaking out because what? The big sign of death and darkness and evil. It wasn't big enough. Our God was bigger. The life was bigger. In the deepest, darkest place, suddenly, somehow, light came from it. But come on, we can praise God for that. Here's the thing. When I look at the cross, when I look at my life, when I look at the hopeless, terrible situations, I can't help but go, I don't see God's goodness. I'm looking for goodness. I don't see his goodness. But you're never going to find it running away. You're never going to find it running away. In fact, it's like living in a lie, and I was told that my friend said XYZ about I know about business people that they go, man, that board member, I heard in an offline meeting that I wasn't about, that this is what they said about me. They got me kicked out, and this is how oh man, and I'm just so mad. And then find out 15 years later it was never them. They're the one defending them, but they had shunned them, kicked them out, been so mad and held this grudge. We do the same thing with God. We run away from him. We hate him. We're angry with him. And we live under the oppression of an angry God that never actually was. But see, if we come to the cross and we go, I've got a problem. Well, we got these little pegs up here, and we go, I've got a problem. I've got an area of my life I don't see God's goodness in. I hear you say he's good, but I haven't seen it yet. Psalm 27:14 says this. It says, I believe that I shall look upon the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. See, right before he's talking about all this evil, all this darkness, all this terrible, I got these adversaries. People are coming and lying about me. But I believe that I will see the goodness of God in the land of the living. And that's what it is. I'm drawing near. If you want to see God's goodness, how will we see that there will be light? We've got to go to the cross. And when you go to the cross to find out, there's actually light to be found in the darkness. There's actually hope. And not when I run away do I find it, not when I ignore it, not when I pretend, but when I draw in and I get real close and I myself have to get in the mess of it. And I gotta get in on this dirty, bloody, evil cross, and I gotta come in and I gotta wrestle with it.